Hello and welcome. Get ready, because today we are going on an absolutely incredible journey. We're going to shrink ourselves down to explore this bustling, microscopic metropolis that is quite literally the foundation of all life.
Welcome to Scrutiny Academy Digital Learning. I'm your host, and in this explainer, we are taking a grand tour of the city of life, the cell. So let's dive right in.
So, have you ever really stopped to wonder what's going on inside these tiny building blocks? I mean, think about it. You're made of trillions of them, and each one is basically its own complex little world, right? It's got its own infrastructure, its own power plants, its own factories. So what's really happening in there?
All right, here's the game plan for our tour today. First, we'll get our bearings with a general welcome to the Cell City. Then, we're off to see the really crucial stuff, waste and energy management. After that, we'll check out its factories and storage units, and to wrap it all up, we're going to talk about the universal laws of life that govern this whole amazing operation.
Okay, let's get started. You know, the absolute best way to wrap your head around the cell is to picture it as a super busy city. Every little structure inside it, which we call an organelle, has a very specific job to do, and they all have to work together perfectly to keep the whole city alive and running smoothly. So, let's begin our guided tour. First stop on our tour, we're heading to the departments that handle, well, the dirty work, but also keep the lights on. You see, just like any city you can think of, a cell creates waste that has to be dealt with, and it needs a constant, reliable supply of energy just to keep going.
All right, say hello to the lysosomes. These guys are basically the city's sanitation and recycling department. They're these little sacks just packed with powerful digestive enzymes. So anything that needs to be destroyed, we're talking old parts, invading bacteria, you name it, it gets sent here to be broken down and recycled. Pretty neat, huh?
But here's where it gets really dramatic. They have a nickname, the suicidal bags of the cell. Why such a dark name? Well, think about it. If one of these lysosomes were to burst open, all those destructive enzymes would flood the cell and digest the entire thing from the inside out. So yeah, it's a super powerful system, but also a pretty dangerous one.
Okay, from sanitation, let's head over to the power grid. Every city needs power, right? And in our cell city, that's the job of the mitochondria. You've probably heard this before, but it's so true. They are the powerhouse of the cell. These are the power plants, running a process called cellular respiration, which takes nutrients and turns them into energy for, well, everything the cell does.
And these power plants are just incredible. I mean, look at these facts. They are tiny, about 150 times smaller than the nucleus, which is already tiny. But there are a ton of them, anywhere from 100 to 150, packed into just one cell. And check out that structure. See how the inner wall is all folded up? Those folds are called cristae, and they basically just create a massive surface area, which makes these little guys ultra-efficient energy-making machines.
All right, so the city is clean, the power is on, so what's next? Let's head over to the industrial district. On this next leg of the tour, we're going to see where the cell actually makes all its essential products and where it stores its valuable resources.
And here they are, the ribosomes. Now, they might just look like tiny little dots, but don't let that fool you. These are the protein factories of the cell. Seriously, everything we've seen so far, and pretty much every process that happens, depends on proteins. And these little factories made of RNA and protein are where it all happens. This is where they're built.
Okay, now we're going to take a little detour into the cities we call plant cells. They have some exclusive facilities that you won't find anywhere else. They're called plastids, and there are three main types. You've got chromoplasts. Those are the colored ones that give flowers and fruits their awesome colors. Then there are leucoplasts, which are colorless and basically act as storage, like for starch in a potato. And of course, the ones everyone knows, the green chloroplasts.
So, how many of these chloroplasts are we actually talking about? Well, check this number out. This isn't just 1 or 2 per cell. Nope. A single leaf cell can be jam-packed with anywhere from 50 to 200 of them. That is an absolutely incredible density of tiny solar power converters, all working together in one microscopic spot. Wow.
To put it simply, chloroplasts are the plant cell's solar power plants. That's their whole gig, to capture sunlight and turn it into chemical energy. You know, the amazing process of photosynthesis. And this isn't just about feeding the plant. This process is literally the foundation for most of the food webs on the entire planet. So, kind of important.
Last stop in the industrial district, the storage warehouses, or as they're known, vacuoles. Now, this is a key difference between plant and animal cells. In animal cells, you get a bunch of little ones. But in plant cells, whoa, there's often one massive central vacuole. It's like a giant water balloon that can take up most of the room in the cell. It stores water and pushes out against the cell wall, creating something called turgor pressure. That pressure is exactly what keeps plants from flopping over.
Okay, so we've toured all these different city departments. We've seen the sanitation crews, the power plants, the factories. Now it's time to zoom out. Let's look at the big picture, the fundamental constitution, if you will, that governs all of these cellular cities. We're talking about the universal laws known as the cell theory.
And this amazing understanding didn't just pop up overnight. Oh no, it took a long time to figure out. Back in the 1830s, two scientists, Schleiden and Schwann, proposed this radical idea that all living things, plants and animals, are made of cells. A huge step. But they didn't know where new cells came from. That final, crucial piece of the puzzle came in 1855, thanks to a guy named Rudolf Virchow. He was the one who figured out that new cells can only come from cells that already exist.
And that brings us right to the cell theory as we know it today. It's really built on two simple but incredibly profound ideas. Number one, all living things are made of cells and their products. And number two, all cells come from pre-existing cells. That's it. Those two rules are the bedrock of all modern biology.
But that second rule, it leaves us with a really fascinating, kind of mind-bending question to end our tour on, right? If every single cell on this planet came from another cell, then where did the very first one come from? How did it all begin? That's something to chew on. Thanks so much for joining us here at Scrutiny Academy for this explanation.